Welcome back to Mess to Mission. And this week I have an amazing author, Kendall, here, and I am super excited because you all know that I'm a big mental health advocate, and her book focuses on a topic that I've not really heard a lot of people kind of speak on. So, Kendall, thank you so much for being here today. And I am super excited for the audience to get to know about your Mess to Mission story.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be the voice of it.
Yeah. So, just tell us a little bit about kind of the journey, the path, the journey as an author, or as much or as little as you'd like to share.
Yeah, I resonate with a mess submission. I know you talk a lot about like the business world and self care and just this idea of when I started my journey into parenthood, I knew I had a diagnosis of depression. I knew I had a lot of self doubt and how would that manifest being a mom. And so I recognized that I needed to just find that sort of self acceptance and find a way to talk about it with my daughter so she knew that it was me and not her. And that is very hard at a young age. And so it started with personifying a cloud and telling her if the cloud is over mom, then it's really shady here and it's sunny where you are. And we turned that into a bedtime story. Initially, it rhymed, and then I wanted to really it was working so well. I thought, I want to put this out there because when I had been looking for resources, blogs, books to use with her and couldn't find it, I realized that maybe I had something there and I wanted to put it down and get it out there and sort of be that face to say it's okay to not be okay as a parent. And so my what felt very messy in all of my life and all of the struggles turned into this mission to say, like, I'm just going to talk about it. I'm going to take something that feels taboo and make it less taboo. So then we can all have sunnier days together.
I absolutely love that. Mm, I think as we get into this new day in age, I suppose, like even when I was younger, I felt like mental health was such a taboo where like nobody talked about depression, nobody talked about even burnout or things that kind of drain you physically, emotionally, overstimulation, or any sort of mental health, mental illness. It hasn't been even until probably the last 5 years of my life that I've really said, I love my therapist. Here's what we talked about. Here's what I've learned. Da 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 da. Here's what I know about ADHD. Everything that's coming to fruition, I think that's an incredible. And as a parent, especially from somebody who experienced postpartum twice, that's not something that you brag about or talk about. But then when you're in the thick of it and somebody says, oh, you might have depression, you might have postpartum, you're like, well, that makes sense. Tell me kind of what sparked your interest in having that hard conversation with a child. Obviously, it's your daughter or somebody that age in because I don't think a lot of people have ever thought about that. Like, that's not something that I would have thought to talk about with my 5-year-old when I'm sitting here thinking, so we've had miscarriages, and it was so hard for me to explain grief and depression and big emotions to a 5-year-old because I was just trying to survive in the moment. So how like, is there something that you experienced or kinda take us on that journey?
Yeah, when you said that, it kind of brought it all together. Our first experience, I did not want to be pregnant. I married my husband with him knowing I didn't want children. The idea of like it grossed me out, to be honest. When we got pregnant, all of those fears of everything that can go wrong, they did go wrong. We had a very bad OBGYN, we had a horrible miscarriage, and I knew my mental health was already rocky. And then you throw that on top of it. And what resonated with the cloud is everyone wants to see the silver lining. Oh, it's meant to be, it's not meant to be. And when we had my daughter, I knew PPD was going to hit. I said, I'm already disposed to depression, so it's coming. And I started working with a therapist to say, I need a plan because I know PPD is going to hit. And I know the pregnancy is going to be hard because I'm going to be so worried of what if again. And so when I had my daughter and everything was really hard, everyone only wants to talk about the silver lining. They say, like, well, you were able to have your daughter this time. And I said, that's great, but it doesn't invalidate that there are moments that are really hard. And I can't even explain them like happy moments, like moments where we are safe at home and protected. And suddenly I'm just like crying and having a cloudy day. And everyone just wants to tell you, like, but you have so much to smile for. And it was hard to kind of navigate that even with adults and friends and family. So that is where the cloud had started, and just saying, I need to explain to people. It doesn't mean I don't love this. It doesn't mean I'm not the happiest mom ever, but it is hard to be a mom sometimes. Your identity changes, your hormones change, everything is different. And when we had decided, we knew we wanted more than one child. And I told my husband, we have to go right away because our daughter was very hard. She had medical issues when she was born. I didn't bond with her for the first 6 months. She knows that. She will tell people I was a terror and it makes them laugh. But it was, we're getting into another kid's gonna come. We had to go right away and have two. And I said, well, how do I explain postpartum depression to her? Because it is going to be hard. I remember sitting on the floor with her crying, but I don't want her to think it's her. And so we knew that we had to create a way to talk to her about our emotions and that I'm going through something bigger with the second coming, and I'm still very excited about her brother, but it is going to look different. And her language took off when she was very young. So the analogies and personifying really helped. Now, if you ask her, what goes on with mom, she won't say mom has depression or ADHD or mom's in therapy or anything. She will just say mom has a cloud. And we know when the cloud's here, we give mom space. And so it was this way of just saying, it really isn't you, and we had a cloud pillow that helped us, and part of the big book campaign is I wanna make buttons and stickers to say, "Just put this on, and it can show someone that there is something going on," and I can't hide it from her. I don't want to be crying half of her life, and her memories are, "Mom was always crying," and then finally turn 16 and be like, "I was depressed," and she's like, "You hid all of that from me." And so we wanted to really sit down and understand, can she handle this? And the cloud is a whimsy character and she gets it.
Okay, the cloud pillow is, like, the best thing of all time. I think that that needs to be part of the campaign, not that I get to vote, but if I do, cloud pillows are so in, because I think that that's a good resource, I would give my five-year-old a cloud pillow and say, "Hey, this is a representation, laissez, because I think it is hard. I think going back to what you said, postpartum depression is the worst. Like, it
Hmm.
is in the depths of you're basically in the depths of hell and you're not bonding the way that you want to. Your body doesn't care if you want to have a good day. Your hormones are like, nope, we're going to shut that down right away. So having to articulate that to a tiny human it's just a task within itself. And I think the whole concept is just super cool of being able to have that conversation and her recognize that and kind of it is it is taking it to the silver lining in a roundabout way, but I know those friends and family, I don't think they intend to invalidate our feelings, but it's so hard when everyone's like, "Well, your other children are healthy," or "You have this, and this," especially after a miscarriage grief, because it's such a complex emotion of grieving someone that you've never even met that you are having to deal with on top of other potential mental health, depression, things like that. I just think the overall concept for navigating that is super cool.
And that is what I enjoy. And with my illustrator in the book, what we've been able to capture is the visual aspect of that. So it is hard in mental health. And I also have a chronic illness that is an invisible chronic illness that just makes me feel miserable. And when someone can't physically see something, they can't say, oh, you're bleeding. Let's put a band aid on that. It's, I am hurt. I am going through something you can't tell. So the visual guide is what we have to kind of show for them to understand. So in the book, what my illustrator was able to do is when mom just has this like wave of, I tried to play a little bit, but something else is going on. She's a lot dimmer as a character. And the family is in the sunshine and they're very bright. And you can see that mom looks different and the cloud is with her. And it is sort of playing along with her. It turns into different like shapes to say, mom's trying, but it's here playing too. And so then when mom is able to rest and they just say, okay, mom, just because you have a cloud, you don't have to go home. You're not ruining our day. We still love you. And they play around her and just let her rest. That's when like the sun rays come through and it shows her I can take my time and hold my space and be here. And then at the end, she kind of gets up and the cloud's not gone. It just rests too. So she kind of takes this minute away from it and says, I'm going to try in my way. And so it was really great to do that visually too. My kids knew the book, so they already resonated with it, but when we were able to see it visually and they were really able to grasp from the color shading, like, this is how it looks different. You can't see what's going on, but there is something different. And so that is what I've been connecting with a lot of mental health organizations, and I'm excited to do groups and stuff with them to talk to families about just having that conversation over telling someone, you know, when someone says, "How are you doing?" It is okay to say, "I'm not doing well," and follow up on that.
Absolutely. So tell us a little bit too, as somebody who, you said you're battling an illness or you've been pregnant, battling depression. Tell us a little bit about the journey just of writing the book, of completing that. I've never obviously written a book, so having to get an illustrator and kind of taking this creation from your brain or something that you're teaching your daughter at nighttime or a story that you're telling and bringing that to life.
Like, you're asking me on the wrong day. Like, this morning, I had an Instagram this morning post. I was just like, I don't wanna do this. Like, it's so hard because when I put it together and you think about, like, the industry and querying agents and illustrators, so much of what you kind of see out there is people are like, "I submitted an idea and it got picked up," and because it hadn't existed and I am so passionate about, like, let's just have this conversation, let's put it out there, I saw a huge gap in the market. But the reason the gap is in the market is because the market doesn't want to take a chance on it. So I got feedback from traditional publishers that, it's something that they can't connect with. And I'm like, to a point, I'm happy for them. I'm happy they don't connect with depression. But it's also like someone out there will. And then right now, the market, because of the state of the world, is very much like we just want happy people doing happy things. We can't take a chance on CL in a way. And so when I turned to self publishing, it was exciting because I know my background's in like project development and I can do this and I can have all the lists and spreadsheets. And I remember you had a post about like the email, like the boundaries on when to email and when not to. And it was like, I'm trying to follow that because I want to do this correctly. But you're also just up against a lot of having to get feedback, and that comes with having to get rejection. And when I talk to it, I remind myself that my purpose is not I'm not the book where I'm out here saying, "Hey, for Christmas, stick it in a stocking." I am saying I want a mom who is, up at 2 a.m. pumping and just miserable to kind of search, I'm not the worst parent, and find this book and my blog that says, it is okay to say this is hard and there are parts you don't love. And so I'm trying to remind myself in the process, knowing my audience. So I have connected with a lot of mental health organization, therapists, school counselors, and that is who I'm writing for, and reminding and grounding myself that way. I know you also had a post about like strategic growth. Like, I'm not out there doing follow trains or anything. I want the people who are going to resonate and be there. And so that's been a really big part of the journey, is getting all of the feedback and all of the people who in self-publishing sadly see it as competition, and find the other side of the world that's the like, let's all grow together, we're all self-publishing because this is something that belongs to be in the world. And there are a lot of authors doing that are really great to be a part of. And so that's been my blend in all of it.
Well, I love that. So going back, I find it like grinds my gears that they told you it's not relatable because I mean, I've been talking to you for 15 minutes and I've already related on depression. I've already related on postpartum. I mean, like it's not glamorous. Like we're not out here like shining the grief as a reward, but it's things that happen and it's things that people don't talk about. And I will tell you also, when I had I don't know, it was on like my fifth miscarriage or something horrendous, the hospital, when I left, they gave books to me to give to my children as resources because we had already announced to our children that we were having another baby. So I think it's ironic, just from my personal perspective, that they find it not relatable because I think it's hugely relatable. I have countless guests that have come on here and talked about postpartum or, a depression or something with motherhood or this infatuation with women have to do it all and be happy all the time for their children and how that's just like not a thing. And pumping at 2 a.m. is miserable. And if somebody tells you that they love it, they're lying because it's not fun. No one's having a good time. And I don't care how great they look on Instagram. Like it's they're lying. Let's just put it out into the universe. So I think that I just find that piece interesting because that was the first thing that they gave us was books to give to the kids to read. Now, my husband took that piece off of my plate because I wasn't in a spot to read said book, but also it was something for him to provide to the kids and talk about and say, hey, here's what happened. And I think it's hugely relatable in not just miscarriage, but you lose a loved one and they don't understand that level of grief. There seems like there'd be plenty of opportunities to utilize that as a resource.
Something hard I know I'm doing, and I am like standing my ground, is the book is mostly from mom's perspective. So the kids are the heroes of the stories, and the kids have the majority of the lines. I counted them, but it is a mom's perspective book, and that has not wildly been done. And part of it was a lot of the feedback is like kids only read because they want to see themselves. And it was like, to a point, because my daughter's 4 and we wrote this together. She has some little one-liners she had in there. But when we got the illustrated book, it was exciting for her to open it up. Now, granted, it looks like me. So she was like, that's mom. But we had her friends beta read it, and they also saw parts of what their mom is going through in there too. Like one kid was like, my mom says that too. And we have books where the perspective is one of our favorite is like, animals. We have dinosaur perspectives. We have a rock that has a perspective. We have a book that a banana has a perspective. And so my pushback was we can teach kids to see a perspective outside of their own. And that's what the gap in the market is that we are showing kids a lot of emotions that are only their own. I dropped my ice cream, I'm sad. But showing them that a friend or a parent or a loved one can go through something else and you can be there for them and then just let them be there with you, however they need to show up, was something where I was like, I'm gonna keep publishing because even if we don't think we should show that perspective to kids, I disagree. I think we can, and my daughter resonates with it. She promotes it. She is funny. She is very, very smart. It's gonna be such a headache when she becomes a teenager, but she knows when things are going on and she remembers lines from the book and she'll like spit them out. And sometimes I'm like, don't quote me on things like that because she'll be like,
Don't play me,
remember mom?
sister.
Yeah. And so like one day she got in trouble and her one line is about Frozen, which I had fought some editors on. I was like, I have to leave this joke in there because she loves Frozen and I'm like using it in a different context, but she loves reading it. And so she got in trouble and I was like asking her what was going on. She's like, I'm frozen. And I was like, no, 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 no. But she knew that
Nice
emotion shift.
try.
Yeah. And that was her like, well, mom goes through this emotion. I'm going through it too. And I was like, yes, you are. But I know why you're going through it right now.
But don't we think it's just, in a way, just teaching them empathy? Teaching them
Yes.
empathy for other people, teaching them empathy for adults that adults don't have. Like, we were actually talking about this the other day that when I was 18 years old, I thought everyone in their 30s had life figured out, solidified, like they were the smartest. And then I hit 30 and I was like, I don't know anything. Like, I don't know anything about being an adult. No one taught me how to navigate any of these things that come at you. We've had pandemics, we've had all these things. Like, that's not in the what to expect when you're expecting book. Like, nobody taught me what to do when the world shuts down or how to navigate kids in bullying systems, or I mean there's a wide variety of things. And I just think teaching kids empathy and letting that be from a parent aspect. Like I tell my oldest all the time, this is my first time on earth too, sis. Like I'm doing whatever I can to navigate this with you, for you, however that pans out. But I think it's such a valid perspective of just all of it. But can you give us a little insight, and you don't have to spill all the tea, but like what is maybe like the base plot to the book?
Yeah. So the idea is they go on a beach day and they wake up and everyone in the house is all excited. So mom is sunny and shiny too. They're singing in the car. They get to the beach and they're running out, and all of a sudden, mom, like, sees it. Like, this cloud is just there, something hits, she opens the car door, and everything feels off, and that is sort of how it happens. Like, people one of the things was when people were baiting reading it, they were like, "But mom has to wake up sad," and I was like, "No, sometimes depression is just, like, this feeling that you were sitting in the car for too long, and your thought kinda rolled in, and you get out of the car, and everything is different." And so then she tells her family, "I have a cloud." And her family gets it because they know mom, and they tell her, like, "That's okay. Take your time." And so they kinda go and play, and they make a little safe spot for her on the beach. And then the kids want to kind of do their beach day as normal, and they do invite her and ask, like, "Are you ready?" And mom just keeps saying, like, "Not yet," when my cloud clears, and they say that's okay. And so the idea is, as they're playing their different activities in the book, there's a special way they include mom without her having to get up, without her having to, like, put on a smile, without her having to come. And then she does have, like, this internal worry that, "Oh no, how'd the day go because I had this cloud?" And they remind her that they hold space and love her no matter what. And when they're gonna leave, she kind of has her rest and gets a big push and says, "Okay, I'm gonna come play for a little bit and then go home." And it's that magic of, when you're in that moment, it's like that analogy. Maybe the toast doesn't always fall jam side down, but you remember it more. And so mom's kind of leaving and she's like, "Is this the day I gave them?" But they get home and the kids only remember that mom was there and loved them. And so it's kind of this arc of that you can show up in the way that you need to show up. You can still have people who understand, and hopefully the language is just saying, "I have a cloud," and people say, "Okay, what do you need?" And so that is book one. I'm actually doing three, and I'm writing book two now. And book two is kind of a little bit of shift on the different styles of depression. So book two is going to be more about using the cloud to play, and that kind of like sometimes you really just can't rest or kick it and you just need to really do something different because of it, and seeing that kind of shifting style in depression. So represents I deal with high functioning depression, so I'm very extroverted because of all of this stuff. And so I'm trying to show, like, different aspects of what someone can go through.
Absolutely, and there are so many, I mean, different versions, like you said, and also, mom could just be sad because she's gotta take toddlers to the beach, because if that is not the most relatable thing about sand and everyone's hot and nobody wants to be sticky and the water's to this, the what, like, that can send mom over t into orbit as well, let's put that on record, because 'cause I'm like,
That is
"It's really
actually
cool
why
to
it's
get
at the
there."
beach. You
Yes,
nailed
it's
it.
a really
Like,
c
I when I was
yeah.
trying to pick a setting, I am not the water parent. I don't like the water. I like sitting on the beach and reading the book, but sensory, I don't like putting on sun lotion, and my kids are very pale. They got dad's genes, and so I was like sun lotion and the wet. I don't like going in the water. I don't want them running up to me with all the sand. And so the easiest way when I was telling her the story was saying, like, how we go to the beach and you love it and mom doesn't? That is what my cloud is like. Like, sometimes it's happy and sometimes mom's not. And so the best part of the book was the first time I got to, like, this final draft and my husband's reading it, and they knew, like, no, they knew it was at the beach. They knew the bedtime story was a rhyme, and this was the first time it was a full book. And in the end, mom goes in the water and my husband comes up and he's like, "So about that ending," because I've known him for 13 years. I have been in the water twice, and it was the first time each kid went in the water the first time, and then after that, I was like, "Nope, okay, I got the first out of the way." And even when the kids saw the picture, they were like, "Why did she draw mom in the water? Mom doesn't go in the water." I was like, "I know. It's just this is the best analogy." Like, yeah.
Yeah, that's I mean, we go for the moment, maybe a couple pictures, and then we out. I wanna sit in the chair and read
Yes.
the book too because somebody inevitably is gonna be mad about a sandcastle, like, it's too much, it's way too much, and also, just not trying to get in the situation where there's, like, creatures that can potentially take me out at any moment, like, there's a lot going on in there. I choose to let that happiness live where it lives, and I don't need to disrupt their environment and vice versa. So, how can they connect with you to learn more about the book or buy any of the books that you're creating or learn more? How can they connect with you and and kind of support you on this journey further?
Yep. So right now I am on Instagram at Cloudy Day Chronicles. That's where I have sneak peeks and some art and pages. I do have a blog, cloudydaychronicles.wordpress.com. That will have the book, the links. It has podcast appearance. It also has a lot of resources. So, what I am trying to build, and one of my favorite things in the book is the back of the book has conversation starters to start the conversation with your kids, and also resources that I used when I was going through a lot of my depression stuff. And then on the blog as well, I have more connections that I've been able to make. And then just blog shares about those days where it just feels too hard and how you can kind of take a cloudy day and turn it into like a sunshine of what you were able to make it through. And so all of that stuff will be on the WordPress and the Instagram links to all of it.
Perfect. Kendall, thank you so much for being here. And we'll also put things down in the show notes just for them to be able to connect with you further. And I tell the publisher, I deeply related to this. So mark it down. If anybody says otherwise, you can send them to me. I'm very bold in that way. I'll take them out. So thank you so much for being here and just kind of telling us all about this resource and what we can provide for our kids. And we can't wait to watch this continue to grow and support you further.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.